Hi, this is Naz. Thank you so much for purchasing my pattern. Once your purchase is complete, you will receive 4 PDF files via email or in your Etsy orders. They are A4, letter, A0, and a printing and cutting instructions file. Please begin by reading the instructions file as it contains all the important details about materials, printing, and cutting. Use either the A4 or letter or A0 file depending on your printer's paper size. Start by printing only the test page, making sure to set the scale to 100%. And check that the 1-inch box at the center and corners measures correctly. Next, before printing the remaining pages of the pattern, in the Adobe Acrobat, select the desired single size from the Layers tab and print with 100% scaling. Assemble the printed pages according to the layout guide, aligning the edges without trimming them. For the skirt layers, this pattern also provides measurements instead of printing rectangle boxes, helping to reduce paper usage and print cost. Let's grab pattern pieces: main cotton fabric, contrast fabric for collar, cotton lining, fusing, and 14 inches zipper. Fold the fabric lengthwise, grain line parallel to the selvage. Position all pattern pieces labeled Cut on Fold along the folded edge and cut one piece each. Arrange the remaining pattern pieces beside the fold and cut 2 pieces each. Each pattern piece includes clear markings with the required number of cuts and other essential details. For additional guidance, refer to the printing and cutting file where all cutting information is clearly specified. For lining, fold the fabric in lengthwise, then place front bodice on the folded edge, cut 1 piece. Place the back bodice, then cut 2 pieces. Place the front skirt pattern piece on the fabric fold and cut 1 piece. Place the back skirt pattern pieces on the fabric and cut 2 pieces. Make sure to transfer the zipper notch. The skirt pattern includes a dotted line marking. This indicates the placement line for attaching the second skirt layer. Transfer the dotted line marking from the pattern onto the fabric. To do this, create small tailor's tags or holes along the line, then use a fabric marker to trace the placement line onto the fabric as shown. Repeat the process on the opposite side and on the front panel. Make sure to transfer the zipper notch. For collar, we have 2 pattern pieces, 3 and 4. Fold the fusing, then place the pattern 4 and cut 2 pieces. Fold the fabric and place the pattern piece 3 and cut 4 pieces as mirrored image. Collar construction. Fuse interfacing to the wrong side of 2 collar pieces. Place 1 interfaced collar piece and 1 non-interfaced collar piece right sides together. Stitch along the fusing edge as shown with 1 cm seam allowance. Trim seam allowances and clip curves. Turn collar right side out and press neatly. Repeat for the second collar. Join front and back main bodice at shoulder and stitch it with 1 cm seam allowance. Repeat the same thing with lining. Trim the excess fabric and give a press. Pin the collar to the neckline of the bodice with right sides facing up. Machine stitch in place. Place the lining over the main bodice, right sides together, ensuring the collar is sandwiched between the two layers. Stitch around the neckline using a 1 cm seam allowance. Trim the seam allowance and clip curves to allow the neckline to lie flat. Understitch the lining 2 mm from the seam to prevent the lining from rolling outward. Turn the lining to the inside and press the neckline neatly. Stitch the armholes using burrito method as shown. Lay the bodice flat with main bodice and lining open. Start with one armhole. Roll the bodice front tightly toward the opposite armhole like a burrito. Keep rolling until the opposite armhole seam is reached. Pull the back bodice lining over the burrito roll and match it with the front bodice, right sides together. Stitch the armhole seam along the entire curve with the 1 cm seam allowance. Pull the rolled burrito out. Repeat the same process for the other armhole. Press both armholes neatly. The armhole seam is now neatly enclosed inside with no raw edges visible. Place the back main bodice on front main bodice, right sides together. You can simply stitch it with 1.5 cm seam allowance. But if you need a neater finish, then place the front lining and back lining right sides together. Now you have a continuous tube, main fabric on one side, lining on the other. Pin from armhole to waist, hem in a single straight line, aligning seams. Stitch with 1.5 cm seam allowance. Press seams open for a flatter finish. At this point, all raw edges are hidden inside between the main fabric and lining. Both side seams look clean inside and out. Bodice is done. Next, coming to the skirt, take the skirt lining fabric and locate the blue guideline that was previously transferred from the pattern as demonstrated in the earlier steps. With right sides together, align the front and back skirt pieces at the side seams. Pin in place, then stitch along the side seams using a 1.5 cm seam allowance. Trim the excess seam allowance and finish the raw edges with a zigzag stitch to prevent fraying. Press the seams to one side. This skirt is constructed in 3 layers. Begin with the first layer, align it with the back panels, right sides together, and stitch the side seams using a 1 cm seam allowance. Repeat the same process for the second and third layers, joining each layer to the back panels in the same manner. Trim the excess fabric and finish the raw edges with a zigzag stitch to prevent fraying. Repeat the same thing with the other side and remaining 2 layers. Finish the bottom edge of the first tier using a 3 mm hemmer foot for a narrow hem. On the top edge, sew 2 parallel rows of long basting stitches to create gathers. Press the seam allowances to one side for a neat finish. Also press the hem to set it in place and achieve a crisp edge. Pull on the gathering threads to create even gathers. Align the ruffle's side seams with the skirt's side seams and pin in place. Distribute the gathers evenly along the seam. Secure by stitching with a straight machine stitch. Once the ruffle is securely stitched to the skirt, carefully remove the visible gathering stitches. Assemble the side seams of the second ruffle layer in the same way as the first layer, stitching with a 1 cm seam allowance. Unlike the first, third layer, both the top and bottom edges of this ruffle are finished with a 3 mm rolled hem. This is important because the top edge will remain visible when attached along the marked guideline on the skirt. Again, pull on the gathering threads to create even gathers. Align the ruffle's side seams with the skirt's side seams and pin in place. Distribute the gathers evenly along the seam. Secure by stitching with a straight machine stitch. Pull on the gathering threads to create even gathers. Next, with right sides together, align the ruffle with the skirt, matching the side seams carefully. Pin in place and stitch using a 1 cm seam allowance. Trim excess fabric, then finish the raw edges with a zigzag stitch or serger for durability. Press the seam allowance upwards toward the skirt, then top stitch close to the seam to secure the allowance and give a neat, professional finish. All 3 ruffle layers are neatly attached to the lining with evenly distributed gathers, seam allowances finished with zigzag for a clean inside and a full tiered effect on the outside. Mark the center front, bodice and skirt to ensure accurate alignment during assembly. Next, attach the skirt to the bodice. You can either stitch the skirt directly to the bodice and finish the waist seam with a zigzag or serger, or use a clean finish method. Attach the skirt to the main bodice with right sides together by matching side seams. Pin it and stitch with 1 cm seam allowance. Next, tuck the lining inside to cover the seam. Press, pin securely, and stitch from the right side using either a stitch in the ditch or a neat top stitch. This method ensures no raw edges remain visible. Before inserting the zipper, align all layers, pin them securely, and stitch in place to hold them together. Then finish the raw edges with zigzag stitch. Transfer the zipper line from the pattern onto the fabric, then attach the zipper as shown. Using a zipper foot, stitch close to the zipper teeth from the top edge to the bottom stop, keeping the stitching even and straight. At the top of the zipper, fold the excess zipper tape and seam allowance toward the inside. Then secure it neatly in place with a few small stitches to keep it flat and prevent the zipper from shifting. Repeat the same on the opposite side. After attaching the zipper, align the remaining center back edges with right sides together. Pin in place and stitch from the zipper notch down using a 1.5 cm seam allowance. For the tie, here I am cutting directly, but use pattern 8. Cut the fabric on the bias grain line, fold it lengthwise, right sides together, and stitch along the edge with a 1 cm seam allowance. Trim the excess fabric and turn it right side out using a loop turner. Tuck in the raw edges at the opening, then press well to achieve a neat finish and prevent fraying. That's it. I hope you like the pattern. Please provide your feedback on my Etsy store, which really helps me. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message on Etsy chat. Thank you.